In the year 2000, Time magazine chose Albert Einstein as the most important person of the 20th century. His claims to fame include the well-known E equals mc squared formula, coming up with relativity theory, and basically making his name a synonym for the word genius. And did you notice that all the rooms in this building have the names of physicists? And this one, the biggest one, is named Einstein. So we have a huge crush on geniuses in our society. We greatly admire these rare individuals who do remarkable things that change our lives, but we are overdoing it. And in overdoing it, we have created unrealistic expectations of how innovation works, how great ideas worth spreading emerge. I would like to talk about how remarkable discoveries are really made. Because can we really wait for a genius to come along and solve all the big challenges that faces our society? In 1905, Albert Einstein published 4 scientific articles, and one of these included his famous E equals mc squared formula. Now I say his formula, but I should note that Olinto de Pretto, an industrialist and geologist from Italy, discovered the E equals mc squared formula 2 years before Einstein did. Now, these were most likely 2 completely independent scientific discoveries, but it's surprising that we're giving one of these individuals so much more credit for the discovery than the other. In a second paper, Einstein presents the formula for Brownian motion, which describes the random motion of particles in a fluid. The formula for Brownian motion was independently discovered by 2 other researchers, William Sutherland and Marian Smoluchowski. In a third paper from that year, Einstein presents the special relativity theory, which builds on highly related work by Lorentz and Poincaré. Now, I don't want to ruin the crush you have on Einstein. There should be no doubt that he was an incredibly smart person. After all, he was a real Einstein. I just want to point out that none of these discoveries depended upon any single individual. If not Einstein, then someone else. And Einstein agreed with this. He acknowledged that, for example, if he would not have discovered special relativity theory, someone else would have. Now, I think this is important to understand. The author Sylvan Schweber writes in his book titled Einstein and Oppenheimer, The Meaning of Genius, calling Einstein a genius dwarfs the background against which his ideas were developed, such that only the foreground, he himself, remains. And again, I think Einstein would have agreed with this as well. At the end of his life, he said, "The exaggerated esteem with which my life's work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler." Now, Einstein was no swindler. It's not his fault that we put people like him on a pedestal. So why do we exaggerate the accomplishments of single individuals so much in our modern-day society? Let me give you one reason. As human beings, we are pattern recognizers. We see patterns everywhere. That's just the way our brain has evolved. From the moment we are born, we are predisposed to learn the relationship between causes and their effects. But because most of us are not trained in science, we don't understand the causes that lead to scientific discoveries. And so we make Einstein the cause. Einstein was a genius, and that's why he did all these remarkable things. Now, we completely suck at recognizing randomness. Random things happen all the time, but we just don't have the cognitive mechanisms in place to recognize randomness. Let me give you one story for the kind of research that we do at the Human Technology Interaction Group at Eindhoven University of Technology. I say that more often, right? You can see. Yeah. So imagine a company who wants to make a music player that can play your music library randomly. They cannot just use an algorithm that will play your music library randomly. If they do that, people will start to complain because they recognize patterns in the random shuffle mode. So nowadays, these companies will shuffle your music in a non-random manner that's least likely to trigger your pattern recognition system. I'm just saying we're very good at recognizing patterns in randomness, but we never recognize randomness in patterns. So this asymmetry has several consequences. In psychology, it's related to what we call the fundamental attribution error. If we try to explain someone's behavior, we greatly emphasize internal, stable factors, such as personality traits, but we consistently ignore situational, external factors. So we say Einstein is a genius, instead of just a really smart person thinking about the right thing at the right time. Just as an anecdote, but at the moment that Einstein died, during the autopsy, a doctor cut out his brain without Einstein's permission. Now, this doctor wanted to use Einstein's brain to examine where all Einstein's smart ideas came from. So this doctor is making the ultimate stable internal attribution. All Einstein's smart ideas must have come from somewhere inside his brain. But this ignores the context, the background against which his work was done. All these other researchers in the emerging field of nuclear physics at the beginning of the 1900s. If not Einstein, then someone else. What's required for remarkable things to happen is a large enough group of people generating activity. It's impossible to predict when and where something remarkable will happen. But if we all try, something will happen. There have been over 16,000 TEDx events in the world. And there are actually 3 going on today. So, purely statistically speaking, it's possible, but it's highly unlikely that my own talk will be very remarkable. Now, you might think that such a realization would prevent me from standing here on this stage. Except this is exactly the point that I want to make. If my talk is not remarkable, that's okay. All we can do is try. And I'm trying. The more effort we put in, the more likely something remarkable is going to happen. There needs to be a sufficient amount of activity in a system for something random to happen. If we look at the history of innovation, or if we read the biographies of people who've done remarkable things, then it is that randomness plays an essential role in remarkable achievements. And for every biography of a person who's done something remarkable, there are the unwritten biographies of 1,000 other people that were just not so lucky and who history has already forgotten. Or do you still remember the name of the first person to discover the E=mc² formula? That's what I mean. So the asymmetry that I'm discussing between recognizing patterns and ignoring randomness, this also plays a role on a group level. Whenever someone has done something remarkable, then we reward this single individual. And we ignore all the other people who are generating activity in the system. Now, this is weird. I mean, I can explain this from the individualistic society we live in and our tendency to see patterns and ignore randomness. But we are greatly dependent upon a large number of individuals to generate activity in the hope that someone, somewhere, will do something remarkable. I was reading on a Facebook page that's called Humans of New York. And on this Facebook page, they post stories and pictures of people. And there was a story about a doctor who works at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. This doctor was working on a cure for a type of rare brain cancer that young children can get. And he had been working on a cure for 30 years. And after 30 years, nothing had happened. He tried, but these kids just kept dying, no matter what he did. And after all this time, it was just getting to be too much. And he said that he didn't want to see any new patients. So tell me, what kind of award do we have for someone who has sacrificed 3 decades of their life like this? Now, we might find a cure for this disease in the future. This doctor is not going to be the person who finds it, but he tried, and that's all we can do. Try in the hope that something random will happen. But then, something remarkable happened on this Facebook site of the Humans of New York. Now, they have a tendency to organize fundraisers. So the person behind the website of Humans of New York, Brandon Stanton, opened up a fundraiser for the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where this doctor was working. More than 100,000 people donated over $3.8 million. Not to reward some genius, not even because they had already done remarkable things, but just to allow a large group of people to generate activity in the hope that someone, somewhere, would do something worthwhile. Now, our society faces large challenges. Many of these will not be easy to solve. We can either wait for a genius to come along and solve all our problems, or we can all collectively try to work towards solutions to these issues. The problem of waiting for a genius to come along is, of course, that that's not how remarkable things happen. So look around you. Try to find these individuals who are trying to generate activity. Show them some appreciation, regardless of whether or not they happen to be the single individuals who end up doing something remarkable. If you're able, maybe you can help them out. Or maybe you, yourself, want to spend time and effort on something worthwhile. Do so, not with the expectation that you yourself will do something remarkable, but with the expectation that if not you, then someone else will do something remarkable. If you don't succeed, that doesn't make your effort meaningless. Remarkable things don't happen due to remarkable people. They happen because all of us tried, and somewhere one of us is at the right place at the right time. If not me, then someone else. But without all of us, then no one.